the Thomas Canzanella law is very important. And it's different, but in some ways similar. So again, it's a presumption law. This passed last year. And I have many cancer cases. So this is very important for municipalities, not so much for school boards yet, okay? So this law creates presumption of compensability for firefighters, not just firefighters, and police officers and first responders who develop various cancers, including leukemia. Now, for firefighters, it requires at least 7 years of active service for the presumption. Let's go to the next slide. So section 31.8 is firefighters. Section 31.7 is public safety officers generally, not just firefighters. All right, let's go to the next slide. Now, here are some of the key facts to know about firefighters. The law is more generous to firefighters than any other public safety official. Firefighters can file up to 20 years after active service until age 75. So what do I mean by that? You could work for Wayne Township, where I'm from, okay? And you could work for Wayne Township until you're 56 and then retire. And then at age 75, you develop prostate cancer. It's just like the other law. There is a presumption that it's work-related. The judge has to presume that that firefighter's prostate cancer is work-related. Does that mean we lose? No. It means that we have the burden of disproving that the cancer is related. Same as what we talked about before, the same concept. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. What can we do? Well, we may be able to require the firefighter to undergo testing, evaluation, and monitoring of his health condition to determine whether the cancer arises from work. I'm certainly going to want all of his or her records. And I have, by the way, it's all kinds of cancers. I have cancer cases from firefighters involving prostate, lungs, rectal. We have a couple of breast cancer cases. You pretty much name it. We have skin cancer cases. Pretty much every cancer you can think of are now being filed against municipalities around the state. So this is really a key bullet point. The law applies to many other public safety workers, not just firefighters, but they're different manifestation rules. So what does that mean? Manifestation is a legal term. I'm using it in a legal sense. With a firefighter, the condition that you sue for could come up 19 years later, and you still get the presumption. But with a police officer or an EMT, the condition has to manifest while you're working. So if you don't get the cancer while you're working, you don't get the presumption, okay? So it's a technical difference. I would prefer, obviously, a case where there's no presumption that it's work-related. So it's easier for me to handle cancer cases filed by police officers and EMTs than it is for firefighters. Let's go to the next slide. Now, I'm talking about firefighters mostly because they're the hardest ones for me to handle. So the problems with firefighting is that there are a lot of potential ways to have carcinogenic exposure. Structure fires, car fires, dumpster fires, exposure to diesel fumes in the fire station when the vehicle is started, exposure during overhaul, that's after the fire, when you're trying to clean up the location of the fire. Contamination of the gear that you're wearing, contamination of your helmet, exposure during training, fire simulation, which is required. These are all ways that people can have carcinogenic exposures, and it's very well known. And these are points that are emphasized in training for firefighters. Let's go to the next slide. So what are we doing when we handle these cases? Well, I'm trying to figure out how many fires people went on. I'm trying to figure out what protection they wore. You're required under this law to keep records of attendance at fire. So I want to look at which fires did you appear at, and were they, minor? Were they really fires or not? Second jobs, we definitely want to know about that. because a lot of firefighters and police officers do have second jobs and they do have hobbies. And by the way, sometimes the second jobs and hobbies could be very harmful also, depending on what that job involves. Okay, let's go to the next slide. I want the prior health records, regardless of the claim, whether it's a police officer, firefighter, etc. Now, just so you understand, we really didn't get into great detail in Canzanella. It's not just cancer claims. Canzanella came from 9/11. It started out being a law to help first responders who were exposed to toxins, okay? Terroristic toxins even, okay? But it includes communicable diseases, epidemics, like the coronavirus. But the claims I'm getting are 100% are cancers. I haven't gotten any claims yet for anything other than cancers. Okay, let's keep going here. What are some of the best defenses in Canzanella? Causation. That's a big defense. Is it really causally related? Did you already have prostate cancer before? Okay. The statute of limitations is really, really important. What does that mean? Fancy term for this. If Zach is filing a claim for, let's say, lung cancer, and I can prove that he knew he had lung cancer in 2017, and he thought it was due to work, but he didn't file until 2020, I can win that case. He's got 2 years to file from when he knows he has the cancer and he thinks it's work-related. Retroactivity arguments, that's technical term. We're trying to argue that Canzanella should not apply to cancers that a person had before the law passed. We're saying it's not retroactive. And then, of course, just like in COVID, permanency issues. It's not as easy for us in COVID as it is in COVID. In COVID, a lot of people don't have permanency, okay? Their cases are weak on permanency. Some, if not most, but not cancer claims. It's very hard for me to go to a judge and say, yeah, Zach had cancer, but he's doing great. The judges are still going to find a way to award money for that. All right, let's go to the next slide. Importance of medical experts for respondents. Well, I'll tell you what I'm looking for in cancer cases. It's very different from COVID. There is literature out there. There's tons of it. I want the doctor to demonstrate that he or she has a full command of the medical literature on that cancer. I don't hire a general person. I usually try to hire doctors who specify in a particular cancer, okay? They cost a lot of money, but there's a lot of money at stake. So we want to get all the information to that doctor, and we want the doctor to write an excellent report. Okay, let's see if there's any that I haven't covered.